What's up guys, PJ here from Giant Slot Games and welcome to yet another devlog video. This one's gonna be an exciting one as I can finally show the first glimpses of the combat system for the game. Those of you who've been following me for a while might recall that I did a video on the design behind the combat a while ago, so that's great. 1 year later I can finally show some of that in action. But before we do that, I just quickly want to let you guys know that if you want to support the channel and the game, you can donate via my Ko-fi page. It helps me to continue the work on the game and make videos such as this one. If you want to consider donating, you can find the link in the description. Shout out to Nick, Quinton and Vicente for being the first ones to support the channel. Thanks a lot guys. So going back to the combat, before we can test anything, we really need something to fight first. So it's time to give these slimes something more to do than just sit there menacingly. Alright, because I didn't want to break everything right away, I decided to start with a super simple script that just made all of the slimes move in one direction. Behold the greatness that is the March of the Slimes. Or something like that. As you can tell, there were some rubber banding issues, which was caused by a bug that was quite easily fixed, to be honest. But apart from that, it went pretty well, I think. No major explosions occurred. Now, as funny as it looks, having all the slimes march across the world is a bit weird, so instead we added the simple jumping behavior that is a little bit more fitting of a slime. They now sit there, looking at you, menacingly.
Look at me, sure.
And then jump towards you every so often. We also made it so that the slimes have a chance to explode themselves when you hit them below a certain HP percentage, which deals a lot of damage not only to you, but also to other enemies in a radius around them. This kind of gives you some technical opportunity to draw a low HP slime into a fight, then hit it a couple times when it's low, and then it'll explode on its fellow slimes, giving you kind of a free damage boost. We might have to tinker with the chance that this happens though, because right now it sometimes happens that they'll just chain explode onto each other and just wipe out an entire group of them while you just sit back and watch the fireworks. Top tier gameplay if you ask me. Then just for fun, we also added a bigger version of the slime, which splits up into multiple smaller ones when killed, just to have some variation in there. It's also a little bit tankier and deals more damage. At this stage, what we really wanted to do was figure out how to make the basic melee combat feel good. So right now, the basic melee attack is a 3-stage combo attack with like a spinny attack at the end that deals damage twice in a 360-degree angle. This is seasoned with the usual, some particle effects, weapon trails, some shitty sound effects, a flashy effect when something takes damage, a damage indicator in the HP bars. But even with all that seasoning, it still kind of felt like something was missing. It didn't really feel weighty enough, so it needed a little bit more juice, so to speak. Adding a screen shake effect helped a little bit with that, but what really helped a lot was adding a knockback to the attacks. That not only helped to give a little weight to the attacks, but also make the combat feel a little less static. It works pretty well. Of course, bear in mind, as we keep developing the game, polishing the combat is kind of an ongoing effort, so what you're seeing right now is by no means final. In fact, all of the models and animations are like my dumb programmer art. In the future, we're gonna have a decent artist and animator come in to clean all of those up, if there's enough funding, of course. Ko-fi page in the description. In my previous video, I was talking about how I wanted the combat to be all about dodging stuff, and how I generally wanted to bring a fast-paced feel to the game. So to that effect, we also experimented with a dodge roll. For now, the dodge roll is on a small cooldown and can be used anywhere at any time. You can even use it in the middle of casting another ability to cancel the animation and respond to incoming danger immediately. It's not supposed to look like that, but you get the idea. When rolling, you also become immune to all damage and knockbacks for a short amount of time. This is done by applying a short invisible status effect, or buff, to the player when they roll. Other than that, the roll is a baseline ability that is not connected to any items, so you'll have access to it right away at the start of the game. So with melee combat out of the way, it's time to start adding some more abilities. By the way, if you want a refresher on how the ability system is going to work in the game, I encourage you to watch the video I did on that a while back. It's explained in much more detail there. So to get our feet wet, or well, hot, the first ability I decided to add was Blast Wave, which is some kind of fire nova. It's a secondary ability, which means you use the right mouse button to activate it. You hold the mouse for a bit to charge it, then release it to unleash a fire nova, which deals AoE damage and puts a burn status effect on all affected enemies, causing additional magic damage over time. The longer you charge up the attack, the more damage it does. It's completely brokenly overtuned at the moment, so don't pay any attention to the numbers. It also costs 30 energy to cast. How that works is, you build energy with your primary ability, in this case the melee swings, and then you can spend it on your other abilities. As you can see, I also added this ability picker on the HUD, allowing you to switch your abilities in case you have access to multiple abilities of the same type based on your equipment. It also shows the cooldown and gets a little blue color tint if you don't don't have enough energy to cast it, the usual stuff. And as you can see, your active set of abilities also changes depending on which weapon you have currently selected in the hotbar. Right now, I'm still undecided whether I should freely allow weapon switching mid-combat. On one hand, it could allow for some really high skill ceiling gameplay. On the other hand, I don't really want to balance the game around it because it would become too complex for casual players, I think. Let me know what you think about this in the comments. Alright, so that covered everything on the gameplay front, I think. Something you might have noticed that I didn't cover in the last devlog is that I've also finally made the internal render targets more than 8 bits per channel, allowing me to finally do proper gamma correction and tone mapping. And also, I could finally implement a bloom effect that doesn't look like total crap. As you can see, it's really a huge improvement over what we had before. You can notice it especially in the sun and in the VFX. Basically, we can now have colors which have RGB values that are higher than 1 in each channel, and doing so will cause them to glow. Well, technically everything glows, it's just that it's only really noticeable for really bright areas. Anyway, this in combination with the ASUS Filmic tone mapping formula produces some really nice looking visuals. If you have a color that is reddish orange, for example, but it has a really high value, so it's really bright, the tone mapping will cause it to appear more white in the final image, while the glow that comes off of it still has that original red-orange hue to it. This is something that we simply couldn't do before when we still had the 8-bit per channel frame buffers everywhere, so I'm glad we finally upgraded. The tone mapping plus bloom combo really makes a huge difference in the visual quality of the image, in my opinion. Just take a look at this before and after footage and see for yourself. Alright, and that is about it for this devlog, I think. Once again, shout out to Quinton, Nick, and Vicente for supporting the channel. If you want to support too, please check out the Ko-fi link below in the description. If you have any questions or suggestions, please feel free to leave them in the comments below. If you enjoyed what you saw, consider leaving a like as well. It helps a lot with the YouTube algorithm and stuff like that. If you want to reach out to me or join our little community, feel free to join the Discord as well. Link is in the description. Alright, thank you very much for watching. Until next time, see ya!